You are golden, you are good enough, like your fire from within. You're inspired, you inspire us, it's gonna be all good again.
Hi, my name is Brianna, and I'm your host for the Roar Indie Author Interview Series. We're bringing another indie author to you today. This is Marta Magellan. She's got a couple of books out there. Great stories for everybody to tune into. So, Marta, thank you so much for being here. And my first question is, what inspired you to be an author?
Usually, I think you've heard this before. It happened young when I was a little girl. I'm sure you heard this, right? And one day, I just read books because somebody gave me a book. That's why I love the idea of Roar, because kids win books. And I got a book for Christmas from somebody. I don't even remember who it was, but I'm very thankful to them. I began reading and reading and reading. And then one day I looked at my mother. She used to like romances. So I noticed all romances were by the same person. So I had, by in a name. And I said, why is this name on all your books? And then suddenly it hit me. Oh, somebody wrote, the same person wrote all of these. They didn't grow on trees. I was impressed. So I thought, yeah, I want to do that. And I was 9 years old. So that's when it happened.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Which book or books are part of the Roar series?
I think she has the Bee Catastrophe book I know for sure, is on there. That's my latest one. It's called Bee Catastrophe. We'll miss them when they're gone. It's about this problem that we're having, losing the bees. It's nonfiction. All my books are nonfiction. They're usually about animals conservation. And
that's pretty cool.
Animals. I love wild animals. And I think she also has, I have another one on hummingbirds called Flying Jewels, a hummingbird story. So I believe that's on there also. And maybe dragonflies. I have a lot of books about animals that pollinate and help us in many ways.
Oh, I love that. I think because it's such a great way to educate kids about how important insects are in a relatable way. That's amazing. Yeah. I always tell my son, he'll be 5, we can only kill mosquitoes and cockroaches and red fire ants. Those are the only ones we're allowed to kill. Every other insect has a really good purpose.
They do, yeah. And probably mosquitoes have a purpose, which is to kill us off. So we can get
I mean, it's not funny, but that's funny.
They're the one. They're people. Once I asked a group of people, which do you think is the most dangerous animals that kills the most people? And of course, I got lots of answers. Alligators, tigers. It turns out it's mosquitoes. They kill more people than any other animal. So they're the top predator, not us. We think
that's so interesting. That's really interesting. I never knew
that. It's okay
that.
to kill them.
We want to. Phew, I was right about something.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely.
What age group are your books best suited for?
They're mostly 5 to, I would say, they would even interest older children, like 12-year-olds, because it's, they're factual as well as I try to make them interesting, and some of them have really, really beautiful illustrations. One of them, I have a book about bats called Amazing Misunderstood Bats, because that's another animal that's really important, but people often think they're horrible things. So the bat book is photographs, but most of them are illustrated.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you use the same illustrator for all your stories?
Not all of them, but I believe all the Roar books are illustrated by Marta Magellan, my brother. And
oh, wow.
He's an excellent illustrator. He has beautiful, you should see him, especially, he used to illustrate for, wildflower nonfiction books. And he's really good with the flowers. So he's perfect for my bee book and my hummingbird book. And the dragonfly book, he did a lot of cartoons, which was really cute too. He does a lot of things. So he's the one that's going to be on my books that are in the Roar program.
Now, do you have a favorite book that you've written? No pressure.
No, I do. Yeah, it's not like being a mother. You're not allowed to have. I think one of the ones that I favored is one called A Noli Invasion, about how nolis are little tiny lizards that have sort of invaded Florida. We've got a lot of invasive species, and they're little, so they're less harmful. But I wrote about them, and I had fun writing it, and it was easy for some strange reason. Every other book is a real struggle to get through. You have to research and all that, lots of work. But the Noli book, I had already written a book about lizards, nonfiction. It was a 20-question book, 40 pages long, and it was published by another publisher, it's Pineapple Press. And so I already knew a lot about lizards. I think that's partially why it became so easy to talk about just one type of lizard and their invasion of southern areas. So I guess that's my favorite book, and it's beautifully illustrated by my brother Mara. So that's
awesome.
Nice.
It's really interesting you break up invasive species. I live in North Florida, outside Jacksonville, and we don't have quite the entourage of, like the snakes and the lizards in the north. But it's really interesting when you see like a news story about, like a Burmese python that's like 15 feet long. And it's like,
they're going north.
I know.
They found them in Georgia and,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're going north. And we're worried, people who are following this are worried that they're going to get used to the cold. And then nothing will kill them, because that's the good thing about these. They're tropical animals, so they're fine in Miami. They love it here where we live. But if they get used to the cold, like we had a cold snap recently, if it didn't kill them, and by cold snap in Miami, it means it was like 45 degrees at night.
Yeah.
If it didn't kill them, then they got used to 45 degrees. This is very bad.
Well, and I think that's a really interesting thing about your books too, that if you're talking about conservation and what it means when you have these invasive species, whether somebody let it loose or they just had that, I don't know if you saw this, they captured a toad that was like 8 pounds in Australia, and the toads were brought in to kill off some insect, but there was no natural predator. So now these toads have just gotten they just are overpopulating, and this toad is like 8 pounds and it's huge. You don't realize the ramifications that can have on a natural ecosystem. Yeah. So what an interesting thing to write about and to explore with children, so they understand the nuances and how delicate these ecosystems are. I think that's incredible.
Yeah. And they're also, they are going to be in a situation where they'll ask for a pet. And then this is what's happened with pythons. The python gets way too big. Iguanas, they ask for an iguana. They get way too big, especially the males. And then they can't afford it. The mother can't afford to feed it. Or in the case of snakes, when they're little, you feed them little tiny mice, whatever you buy at the pet store. When they get big, then they start wanting entire rabbits. And next thing you know, whole deer. So you can't keep those at home. And the zoos don't want them. They have their own snakes, so they let them loose. And this is what the problem is. It's true about iguanas, especially those kinds of animals. There are very few animals that aren't dangerous when they're in the wrong environment. And that even includes, to tell the truth, cats. That's one of the loose animals that we can't let loose. When you don't want your cat anymore, you can't send it out. They'll survive, but it's not a thing. Yeah.
Well, then they just procreate if you don't have them fixed. And then there's just cats everywhere.
Yeah. Causing, havoc.
Oh, my goodness.
There's always the ones that are natives. Native animals have predators. So in Indonesia, the python has the cobra, which will eat all its eggs and its babies. It has something called honey badger, same thing.
Yeah.
Run after it. But we have nothing. They're the top predator around here now, besides us. We tried to get them, but they're very sneaky. They hide. So we can't get rid of them very easily.
So are you going to write a book about invasive species at all? Is there one?
No, I want to. I have, I've written about invasive species like with anoles, and I did write a book called Python Catchers, Saving the Everglades. That was about the pythons, and I wanted to write one about invasives in general. So it just depends. If I have a publisher that wants it, I will definitely write it.
Oh, I think that would be interesting. A way to make it accessible and, again, for kids as well.
Yeah.
What does it mean for you to be part of a series like Roar?
I think Roar is a fantastic idea, especially this new idea they have of putting those machines in schools so that kids can get books out of the machine and instead of sodas. What a wonderful idea. Something that's good for you. So
Well, yeah.
So that I really think is wonderful. Plus, they have that whole golden ticket thing going on. I don't know if you've heard about that. A kid who gets one of the books, I think they get tokens if they read something, and then they can go and use the token in the machine. And if they get a golden ticket, an author will come and read, and they have a pizza party. Well, kids love to win things, especially books. I think books. My kids, we went to a book fair when they were very young, and they won a book. There was like two sides, and whoever I think sang the loudest, it was some silly thing. The whole section got a Judy Blume book.
Ooh.
And I started reading out loud to them. And after that, they just liked it. They were young. They were 5 and 7, and they liked it. So I kept buying more Judy Blume books. And then I bought, books that were silly, that weren't as literary, but it worked. And I think a lot of it has to do with, I won this. I'll let you read it to me.
My kid's similar.
Isn't letting me read to him because he hasn't won anything. He needs to win a book so that he knows, hey, this is special,
Yeah.
I really love this whole Roar thing because it's about getting books in children's hands.
And I agree with that too. And we read to my son every night, and he gets upset if it's late, like too late for books, like if, where I happen to be out or whatever. And he's like, what do you mean? Can't I just have one story, mommy? So I think I agree with you in total agreement about like, it's so good to just get books in their hands and have it be new and different. Since you started writing or were inspired at such a young age to become a writer, do you have any advice or insight for the next generation of young writers?
Well, I say you got to write, keep writing, write your stories. It's not something, I think people are thinking that writers are rich like Stephen King or something. I'm not even sure he's rich. Writers write because they really love it. And that's the only reason to do it. It's the only reason to do anything except work. You got to work to make money, survive. And then you don't have to love it that much. It's still work. It's good if you do. Everybody says you should do something you love and then you don't really have to work. And that was my case. I was a teacher. But it's still work. Teaching is hard work. Work is work and fun is fun. And you have to I think writing is something that an artist has to do. Some people just play music. They have to play music. They don't have to make money from it. And I know that's true because my brother was also in a band, and the leader, they would go crazy because they would go all the way to Europe every summer. They had gigs because they were, the people in Europe must have liked rock, blues or whatever they played. And he said, I really don't charge them that much for playing the music because I'll play the music around the corner. But I do charge them for all that I have to go through to travel and instruments across the ocean.
Yeah.
And it's the work that's involved. The music, the art has to be loved. You just love it. You'd probably do it anyway. Then I say, yes, then you're a writer. If you're going to do it, whether you're going to be rich or not, then you're a writer. And then, of course, hopefully you'll write a bestseller. That would be very cool.
Right? It's always the hope, right? It's always the hope. You got to have that too,
Yeah.
But I love that insight, write because you love it, not because it's going to, you're going to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Because if you don't love it, you're going to steer away from it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great insight. Where can students, parents, and educators find out more about you and your books?
Well, you can go to my website, which is real easy. It's just martamagellan.com, just my name, martamagellan.com. You can also go to some of the publishers that publish my book. I publish with iFrig Publishing. Those are the ones that are going into the book machine. I don't really know what they call it. Book machines. I guess it's book machine. That's iFrig Publishing. Pineapple Press has some of my older books. And I also recently published with Albert Whitman. So I'm out there somewhere. And my website has all those books that I have published.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Marta, for sharing some of your story and time and books with us. Again, you can find Marta at martamagellan.com, or you can go to the Roar website, randomactsofreading.org, to check out her profile as well. So this has been another spotlight for the Roar Indie Author Series, brought to you by iFrig Publishing and the Mama Knows Manda podcast. Stay tuned for next time.